Hi, now we are going to explain the CXMs that affect the process. It's related to Ishikawa Fishbone, and in the root cause analysis we use it to identify something go wrong. Now we are going to use it in a different way, checking the 6 factors that affect the process and how they can be managed to avoid a failure. So we need to identify that we have 2 kinds of controls: passive controls and active controls. Passive controls are related to conditions, and active controls are related to actions. Passive controls are something that you can touch, you can see, you can consider infrastructure, investment, something that is related with all about the materials, the equipment, and the environment. That's passive controls. Active controls is related to something that you are not able to touch, you are not able to smell, is not related to money, is related to knowledge, understanding. We can say that the passive controls are related to money, and the active controls are related to brain, the how to think. Now, in the passive controls, we have the materials, specifications, flexibility of the supply chain, of the suppliers, and how you are with an approved supplier, or you have some trust in your suppliers. So at the end, there are 3 levels. We are going to discuss it later, but now we need to consider that this first requirement, this first key element about materials, is all that is related to the product that is going to be with the consumer, the final customer, the consumer. With the equipment, we have that this need to be right for the use. It has to be something that we can use properly to process the product, to obtain the product we are going to process, to pack. It has to be an equipment that has good functionality, that is operative. It's not only good for the product, it's not to avoid any contamination, it's something that works properly, that has a right function. And with that, we can talk about the performance. So with all the equipment, we need to have it in this right for the process, for the product. It can be useful, it works properly, it functions, and has a nice performance, or a performance according to our requirements, our needs. The environment is about the conditions of the environment. How is the floor, the ceiling, the walls, the surfaces in contact with the product, the surfaces that are not in contact with the product. All these conditions are related to the environment. The maintenance of the environment, because you can have a really nice floors and walls and ceilings, but if you don't maintain them, they start to rust, they start to crack, they start to be not as sanitary as we need. So the conditions of the environment need to be maintained. And by last, the end is to have a safe environment, to have a safe surface to contact with the products, a safe air circulating in the area, safe water. Everything we use as part of the environment, they need to be safe. So it's about the conditions, the maintenance of the conditions, and the safety. These 3 key elements are the passive controls. So we are going to put it in the matrix in a way we can identify these passive controls related to investment, related to money, something that we can touch, smell, see, and that passive controls in the standard are identified because are conditions. There are no procedures, there are no documents, there are conditions. So that's important to identify in the standard which one of the requirements are related to passive controls. With the active controls, we are talking about the management, the method, and the personnel. In the management, we are talking about the risk assessments. All these assessments requiring the standard are part of the compliance we need to have, and these assessments will give you the information to take decisions. But first, we need to run an assessment. With that, we will have empowerment. We will be responsible for these evaluations, these assessments, and according to the decisions we take, we are empowered to do something properly or not so good. So the next level will be the decisions making. That is the reason because we are talking about the management. But it's not only a management related to directors or bosses or supervisors or managers. It's decisions for all the people in the company, includes the personnel, the operative personnel that is doing the job. Not only the managers or the middle managers, we are talking all the people in the operation. They need to take decisions, they need to deal with empowerment and running properly assessments to decide what is right and what is not. That's about the management. About the method, we need to be sure that we have the controls identified in the procedures. We have clear information for the people to know what they need to do and how to react when something goes wrong. So it's about the controls and the corrective actions. When something goes wrong, how you can adjust or how you are going to apply a corrective actions with the different steps. With controls and reactions, we are able to have information. That information will support us to do assessments, to win empowerment, and to have right decisions, proper decisions, because we have the right information. So these are related closely. About the personnel, about the employees, we need that they need to comply with some actions, doing what we said, as we said, in the controls and in the corrective actions, in the reactions when something goes wrong. And we need to check that they have the behavior we are looking for. This behavior is related to the culture of the company, the culture of the people, the culture that we promote in all the site. And with that culture, we have a way the people do the things, they behave, they have some behaviors, and with that we have the compliance of the actions with the behavior, with the culture, and with that we have the competence. If our people knows the actions with the controls and reactions, they do it, they behave following that procedures according to the controls and reactions, we can have with all the information, with the assessments, the empowerment, the competence of the employees, the competence of the workforce. So passive controls and active controls are related to infrastructure and how we make decisions and how we have knowledge. The first ones are related to investment, infrastructure. The second is related to actions, to the way the people do things, and that's why we said this is the money and this is the brain. Okay? If we check this in the standard, we can have the materials, the environment, the equipment, the information, the personnel, and the management. And all the requirements of the standard will be breakdown for each one of the key elements. As you can see, there are only six key elements related to the Ishikawa Fishbone Diagram. So we have the passive controls, the conditions, and we have the active controls, the actions. Okay? So now, when you have the implementation matrix with all the requirements in 1.0, is about management. When you have all the requirements related to personnel, is about the section 7 in the standard. When we are talking about information, we have in many clauses of the standard, we have it in 2.0 in the hazard plan, we have it in the management system, in the 3.0 and all the requirements for internal audits, approval of suppliers, approval of service providers, traceability, recall and withdrawal. All these requirements are related to information. That's the active controls with the actions. In the passive controls, we have the specifications, the authenticity, legality, and the proper packaging materials related to materials and the raw materials, obviously. And the environment is about how the external requirements, the safety of and security of the facilities, the layout, how are the internal infrastructure of the walls, ceilings, floor, etc. The contamination, the risk of contamination, 4.9 in the standard. Hygiene and cleaning, 4.11 in the standard, and as part of that, the environmental monitoring. If we have the equipment, we have that it has to have the right design. They need to work properly for detection, according to the requirements about the detection of foreign materials. They need to be maintained and they need to be calibrated. All of them is about the passive controls. All of this is about the active controls. That's it. I hope that you understand it. You have no questions, and if you need to clarify something, please let me know. Thank you very much.